think your chair slid a little bit.
Okay.
I think we're live.
Good, we are.
Well, we're live. It's good to be back again. I always say that. I don't know. It's
always good to be back.
It's always good to be back. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Tuesday Night Live.
Yes.
This is the lovely Kate Semmens. I'm Dean Nixon, coming to you live from St. George, Utah, and TurningLeaf Health and Wellness. For some reason, we both unknowingly wore black today.
We're not in mourning.
So that's that. We'll just clear that up right up front. But we're excited to be with you tonight. And as always, our goal is to bring to you really positive life coaching topics and things that you can use to help move you and your family and loved ones forward. So we want to make our topics timely, super helpful, and informational.
Absolutely. And so speaking of timely, it's pretty apropos. We're diving headfirst into the holiday season this week, right? With Thanksgiving coming up in just a couple of days, which I don't know about you, Dean, but for me, really, okay, so my birthday's at the end of October. Shameless shout out to Katie and her birthday, right? And it's from the end of October until right after the new year. Time just goes whoosh because life gets really busy this time of year. And I think most people experience that. And so with Thanksgiving being this week, we wanted to have a little conversation with y'all about navigating holidays and family time and all of those places that are holly and jolly and grateful and thankful, yet they can often come with a lot of undercurrent of family stuff, right? You're getting together with your loved ones, with your family members, with all those people in your world. And sometimes it can be a little bit sticky.
Very.
Yes.
Very sticky.
I'm all trying to be sensitive. You're like, no, sometimes it's just really hard.
It's just really hard. And I think there's some key pieces to that. And so as we go into the holidays, we always want to be, very aware. And I think that sometimes we become very sensitive to things. We become very oversensitive to things. We tend to go into interactions and situations with fear, with expectations. We have a lot of history that has impacted us from the past, things that are affecting how we feel or how we may feel in a situation, legitimate or not, whether it's something that we imagined or we're afraid of, or there's some things that are toxic and unhealthy. So as we navigate into these areas and into these places during the holidays, it's easier for us to avoid. And that was one of the intriguing things about working through the COVID experience was everybody had kind of a natural excuse. And even last year, to some degree, it was like, I got a cough, sore throat, I better not come around. But this year, where we're far more post-pandemic than ever before, it does provide a lot more challenges and fears and anxieties. And so we're going to be coming up with some of those things that may impact our ability to feel comfortable in those settings or moving into those settings or apprehensions into those settings. Also, I think one of the things that's affecting it is there have been a lot of people that have been in isolation. There have been a lot of people that have been pulled away for a long period of time. And just the idea of being in crowds, just the idea of being back into groups of people can be a little overwhelming just because it's been a minute. Yeah. So I think we're looking at a lot of different things here. And I know that that's a lot of the things that I've been addressing with people over the last 2 to 3 weeks is really kind of like, how do I keep myself safe and how do I navigate through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my head's going in 3 different directions.
Good,
so
let's go.
Let's start with just boundary setting first and foremost, because I find that sometimes when we're moving into these spaces with family members, we have this tendency, I love how you said expectation, right? We have an expectation of what's going to happen either in a hopeful, positive way or in, oh gosh, this is going to be so hard. They're going to bring up this topic. They're going to ask me about this thing, all of this stuff, right? We have these expectations or these things that our imagination is fixating on about most of the time, okay, let's just be honest for a hot second, shall we? Most of the time it's in the negative, right? Like
Right.
most of the time it's like you're doomsday prepping for these experiences, that maybe your grandmother's going to ask you when you're going to start having babies and all the, I don't know, like all the things that happen
Yeah.
in the holidays and family settings, right?
Yeah.
That can be that super fun word that everyone loves, triggering, right? Like we can get
Right.
triggered with that.
Right.
And so, one of the ways to be able to manage and navigate through that is by creating healthy boundaries.
Right.
So, let's just kind of walk the studio audience here. That's you guys, by the way, through how we set good, healthy boundaries with others as well as with ourselves. I feel like sometimes we don't necessarily have to have a full on conversation with someone to put in a boundary in that experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, in my reaction, my response to that immediately is the first thing we've got to do is we've really got to put the boundary in with ourselves.
Yes.
It's really important that the most important thing you can do is set a boundary with your imagination.
Mm.
If you're like me, and I know you've expressed very similar things, we have a tendency to just, as you put it earlier, make it a negative thing or awfulize it. We have a tendency to dig up the past or bring past experiences. We tend to worry grandma's going to bring those things up. Maybe we're stressing out about maybe we had a breakup a month ago and we no longer. I'm kind of pulling some of the things that
are super normal.
that are legitimate.
Yeah.
Like I had a breakup and so I don't want to have to explain to the family and or I lost my job or things that are going on like that. And so now there's apprehension. Well, the first thing we do is we run to our imagination. We say, hey, tell me what can I expect?
Right.
And people will tell me all the time, well, I'm just being prepared. I'm just preparing. No, you're not. Stop. That's not preparing. That's like scaring. There's a difference between preparing and scaring.
Yes.
You're just scaring the crap out of yourself. So let's not do that. We've got to put the boundary in place that says, I've got to deal with what is instead of what could be.
Right.
I've got to stop dealing with the what ifs about it. I get into the what ifs. What if they say this? What if they do? I'm preparing myself. No, you're not. You're scaring yourself. Yeah. So the reality is we've got to put the boundary in with our imagination, deal with the facts, deal with what is real, deal with it is right now, right in this space. You'll be prepared when you get into that situation. You'll be able to deal with it. Here's the difference too, and I want to because I legitimately had this conversation just today with a client.
Oh, awesome.
Is we have to make sure that when we are preparing or planning, that we're not prepping out of fear. When I'm in the what ifs, I'm prepping out of fear.
Right.
When I'm prepping in, and that's the other boundary I would say is number one boundary, have boundary with your imagination. Number two boundary is have a plan. Always have a plan. If I'm going to a family member's home where I know it could get toxic or there could be conversations or maybe people don't respect the boundary. Maybe I've already tried to put a boundary and I hear this one again a lot. What if I've already told this person and they keep talking about it or they keep doing this or they keep, letting their kids do this with my kids. And, what do I do in these situations? Well, always have a plan. Not plan off of the what if and the fear and the oh no's, but plan of, okay, hey, we're going to go into the situation. If I give you a wink and a nod, it's time to go. We're going to wrap this up, jump in the van, because we're going to pie at somebody else's house. And if you got to phone a friend and set something up legitimately so that it's like, hey, if I call you, it's because we're coming for pie because we already made that arrangement.
Oh, I love that.
Does that make sense?
Totally, absolutely.
So it gives me that ability to plan, but not be afraid and not to go into the interaction with fear. I can have people that I'm pulling in to help support me, like, hey, if I wink and nod, that means, and especially if I have a overwhelm, I'm afraid of being overstimulated, like I've been isolated. Maybe I've had a really bad year with COVID and I've been, sick a lot and I haven't been around people a lot. And now I'm finally feeling like I could be around people, but it's overwhelming to
Mm.
me. So now I'm going to go to this party, but I need to have an exit so I can get somebody to support me. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, Kate, I'm going to be there. If you see me and give you a signal, can you, take have me step outside
Yeah.
or something like that. So there's a nut, always have a plan. So imagination and plan, those are my two big suggestions. What do you think?
Yeah, I love that. And what I particularly love about both of those things, other than the maybe having a little sidekick buddy, right, to help support you in what you're trying to create for yourself, being around your loved ones, being in those um kind of overwhelming situations, like you said, right? Other than those interactions, all the boundaries that you just talked about, Dean, are just ones that you set within yourself, right?
Right.
They're just like decisions that you make within yourself. Like, no, I'm not going to allow myself to awfulize. I'm going to bring it back. We always say, don't decide now how I'm going to feel then, right? Like, I'm going to be in the moment. I'm going to hope for a lovely holiday with my family. However, if it does start to get into somewhere that I don't feel is healthy for me tonight, then boom, 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 this is what I'll do, right? Like I can
Right.
just excuse myself. I can like phone a friend and be like, yeah, sorry, I'm running a little late. I'll be there soon, right? Whatever that is, like just pick up your phone and start talking on it. I was traveling with my sister over the weekend. She's like, man, you can literally like get away with anything conversation wise these days because all you do is like stick in an earbud and start talking and people will think you're talking to
Yeah.
somebody, right? Like
Yeah.
legit, like, oh hi, yeah, just wrapping up here at Aunt Susan's and we're heading on over,
Oh, I
like
love it. I love it
yeah.
too. Because when I was a kid, and some of us old gray hairs out there can remember, like you'd be driving along, you'd see somebody talking to themselves in the car, you'd be like, "Well, that guy's there's problems.
Crazy.
There's problems there." Nowadays, it's because you have phone in your car. You can
Mhm.
just be so it's really therapeutic. I
Yes.
really encourage clients, like when you're in your car, just start talking to yourself,
I love it.
talk it out, get it out,
Yep.
because everybody's going to think you're on the phone.
Yeah, totally.
So one thing I did want to add, another third piece that I think is really important is be accountable for your own happiness,
Ah,
right? Don't place all of your happiness in I'll be happy when,
mhm.
or this is going to be so exciting and this is going to fulfill me. You've got to you've got to take accountability for your happiness. You've got to be the one that steps up and goes, I'm responsible for making my happiness happen. So if I'm going into an interaction with my family setting, then and I know, well, gosh, maybe it won't be so great, or I'm afraid it won't be what I want it to be, then you need to give yourself something else to look forward to.
Mm.
And I know for myself, what everybody that knows me, it's pie. I mean, come on.
You
And
had me at
you
pie.
have me at pie. It doesn't take much, right? Pie, pretty much any pie. I mean, I'll
Mm.
even eat like a meat pie. I mean, I just love pie. And so feel free to bring them all over here. I'll eat the crap out of them. But the point being is, sometimes I'll make sure I have pie at home
Mm.
so that if I have that interaction, I can always have that interaction and wherever I go, and still go home and find something fulfilling for
Yeah.
myself that can bring joy and happiness into myself.
Mhm.
And also, I can verbalize that. And if I'm on the way home and I'm like, hey, I want to go look at lights or I want to do
Mm.
something else,
Yes.
I need to verbalize that and I need to use my voice to make sure that I'm in charge of my happiness and the things that are fulfilling to me. Don't just go put yourself last, or because
Mm.
people feel that energy. All you parents out there that put yourself last and put everybody else's happiness before yours, they feel it.
Mhm.
And that's the thing that I think is important for us to understand is on our end, as is sitting on the other end of the spectrum on the couch working with people years later that are unpacking their childhood, unpacking their lives, when they have had parents that were always putting the children, that their happiness before their parents were putting their happiness before theirs.
Mhm.
It always creates long-term issues for them down the road. So it's healthier for you as a parent to find a balance and include your children Don't just put their happiness and other people's happiness before yours. Use your voice, make sure there's
Yes.
equitability in all the relationships, because it helps with the future, and it helps them develop better. Like, you want your kids to develop.
Yeah, you want to teach them how to be able to use their voice when they've got a spouse and they have kids, right? Like, instead of
Right.
patterning, oh yeah, once you become a mom or a dad, then just
Yeah.
you don't matter anymore, right? No, everybody matters.
Everybody matters. And
Yeah.
so you got to model that behavior,
Mm.
and you don't have to be a jerk about it. You don't have to be grandstanding over it,
Mm.
and you don't have to be overly dramatic about it. But you can say, hey, okay, this is important for me. We're going to go do this. I would like to do this.
Hmm.
What are you wanting to do? And build a plan.
Yeah.
So that's another piece I would add.
Yeah. I love that. And just to piggyback off of that, once again, just anchoring into trying to get out of expectation as much as you possibly can, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to create something, being able to go and see lights together as a family, or whatever all of those things look like, all your traditions and your beautiful things. However, learning how to surrender into acceptance of allowing it to morph into what it is it's going to be as well.
Right.
Right?
Letting go.
Just
Yeah.
letting go, put like, hey, this is the intention for today, and then see what blossoms out of it, right? Something better than you imagined could potentially happen, or it could go really, really sideways. Either way, if you take the expectation out of it, it won't sting as bad,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
it won't hurt. It won't become like, oh, Thanksgiving 2022, let me tell you about that, right? Like, and you just have this big war story
I love
that
you
you've gone
channeling
through.
all these accents.
I know. I don't even know
You
what's
got,
going
like,
on today.
this-
Maybe it's the blue
This
hair. I don't know.
theater major coming out here. But I love it.
It's all the different family members are just emerging.
You're just like evolving. We're just gonna have a skit soon. But I agree with you in that letting go. If you got a picture in your head of how things are supposed to be or going to be,
Yes.
based upon the "I'll be happy when's," or putting all of that. I want to repeat the holiday, or I want to have that
Yes.
I want my kids to have that special. If you've got a picture in your head that you're walking around trying to line things up, that's your first red flag that you have expectations you
Mhm.
need to step away from. And it's okay to want to be fulfilled. It's okay to be responsible for your own happiness, but it's also important to let go of trying to force things to fit in the frame, because not everything, especially if you have kids, it's not going to fit in the frame.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Kids are used
No.
to drawing outside the lines. So
And you know what? That's amazing.
It's
like, we
beautiful.
love that.
yeah, until you clean it up off the walls. But it's awesome.
That's
So those
funny.
are some things that I think are really
Yeah.
important. And I love your expectation piece.
Yeah. I do believe, however, that instead of getting into expectation, right, we can get into creation and intention,
Yeah.
right? And so I love how you anchored into like, oh, I really want to recreate this thing, this experience, right? Well, what you're really wanting to do is have the feeling that you experienced when you were in that moment. And you can create those kind of feelings and create those kind of memories and moments doing it differently, right? When you go into the intention of, I really want to have a very peaceful Thanksgiving. So just like we were talking about early, right? If things start to get into the chaos, then I'm going to excuse myself so I can continue to experience a peaceful Thanksgiving, right? And
Right.
so really getting intentional about the emotional experience you want to do and creating that is going to help you stay on track and keep you out of the expectation weeds of, oh, I want this to happen and the gingerbread houses to go this particular way and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Because if you're attaching a feeling to a moment, and then you're trying to reduplicate that,
Mhm.
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's like a recipe. It's like making a meal, or pie. It's like making a meal, right? And as you make that meal, it takes specific ingredients to make that one meal. And when it tastes amazing, then down the road you want to replicate it. So you write the recipe down, but you will never have the same experience again.
Mhm.
Even though it will taste similar, it will never taste exactly
Yes.
the same. And so you have to just learn to enjoy the meal as it is, instead of being resentful that it wasn't the meal that it used to be. and that's really, an important piece,
Yeah.
as you said.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're right there, Dean, right out of time. So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that's helpful as you move into Thanksgiving this week, and in that energy, that emotion of gratitude. Dean and I and all of us here at Turning Leaf Health and Wellness are just so grateful for you. We're grateful for your likes and your shares, helping us spread the love, like we like to say. We're grateful for everything that you do in your world to help make this world even better and just more love as far as we can possibly create it, right?
Absolutely. Like everybody that has contributed to the growth of Turning Leaf, as we move into our 20th year, and we're moving into now I guess our 21st year. Everyone that has contributed through the years to allow Turning Leaf to become what it's become and become the platform that it's become and the healing center that it's become, I want to thank you personally. From all of the people that have played a role, my partners that have come and gone. I just really want to express my gratitude, tell you how much I love you and appreciate you all. And thank you for being a part of such an incredible experience. And thank you, Kate, for bringing in the new era and the new fresh breath for who we're becoming.
Yes. And we love you all. Have a very safe and wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll see you next Tuesday Night Live.
See you soon.
Okay.